Hello, I'm Betty Hollister, Public Information Manager with the Regional Flood Control District, and welcome to another edition of the Flood Channel. Coming up on today's program, we'll look at some of the issues focusing on educating the public about the dangers of flash flooding. We'll also visit with Commissioner Chip. Fooled you, didn't I? Well, for today's edition of the Flood Channel, I'm going to turn over some of my duties to you, the viewers of the show. We consider you to be an important part of our team to educate families like yours about the dangers of flash flooding. So let's see what you have planned for today's show.
Hi, my name is Jim Saavedra. I'm a resident of Northwest Las Vegas. My family and I do a lot of things around the house that we don't think twice of, like watering the lawn, washing our cars, fertilizing our grass, and disposing of used paints, oils, and batteries. But we should all be aware when we do these things around the house that there's potential dangers to our water supply. Coming up, I'll show you several things that you and your family can do to help protect the quality of our water.
Hi, I'm Jimmy. My fiance Brian and I just purchased a new home in Southwest Las Vegas. Things like location, schools, and nearby parks are important to us. But since flooding the desert can be so dangerous, should we have considered buying flood insurance? I'll help you do your homework about flood insurance coming up.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ann Mokopathai, and this is my husband BJ, and we're enjoying a beautiful day at the Wetlands Park near Lake Las Vegas. Twice a year, staff walk along the washes that drain through the valley to this location to make sure no one is polluting our environment. Plus, we'll talk with SNWA about their role in protecting Lake Mead. All that, our Flood 101 and Pollution Solution segments coming up on this Residents Run the Show edition of the Flood Channel.
Welcome back to the Flood Channel. It's springtime, and that means spring cleaning. Cleaning out the garage, fertilizing the lawn, and maybe planting some flowers. It's also an important time to remember to make sure that dangerous chemicals like paint, oil, and pesticides are disposed of correctly. Our resident reporter, Jim, shows us how to get those chores done environmentally right. Jim, do you have that honey-do list ready?
Thanks, Betty. I've got that list right here. Did you know that 1 quart of motor oil can contaminate up to 250,000 gallons of water, and that yard chemicals and fertilizers can wash into our ditches and storm drains, reducing the amount of oxygen in the water that aquatic life needs at Lake Mead? You should always get rid of these contaminants at disposal sites that accept hazardous waste. Lawn and garden chemicals should be used according to manufacturers' recommended amounts, and using a commercial car wash helps us all save precious water.
They say Rome wasn't built in a day. It was little efforts and little efforts, and when you look at things in a small perspective, you would say, it doesn't hurt if I throw this in the garbage, or if I throw this in the gutter, or if I, let my oil spill down the driveway. It's just one person. But when you multiply that by 1,000 or 1,000,000, then you can see the cumulative effects. And so it has a huge difference. But it really starts with the individual, because nothing changes without individuals changing the way they're thinking or the way they're behaving. A huge pollution problem in Lake Mead doesn't start because everybody contributed at one time. An individual contributed and another individual contributed. So it's incredibly important. And I hope that our stewardship as people here always relies on the responsibility we have to act accordingly or prudently or responsibly individually. Think about yourself for a minute. Think if you're trying to solve a problem and it's a huge, huge problem and you're the only one there to do it, it could be overwhelming and maybe not even know where to start. Or the efforts that you did made some difference but not enough. It's no different in this. And the partnership is this community. And what is this community? The community is the individual, the community is the business, the community is the government agencies. It's everybody who's involved in building what a community is. And problems or issues such as polluting our only water source can't be done just by one person. It cannot be done by a single government. It can't be done by a single individual. So you have to have commitment from everybody. You have to create partnerships with everybody. And the important aspect of this is you're thinking, what's the purpose in this? What are we trying to accomplish? If I'm here and I'm washing my car and I'm using detergents and I hose them off my car, I feel good because now my car's okay. We don't leave those on there. But what happens? It runs down the gutter and then you don't think about it anymore. But you need to put it in perspective as a community. That's going down the gutter, it's collecting somewhere, and eventually it's making its way into Lake Mead. Well, you need to remember when you go turn on your faucet or pull that water out of the hose to wash your car, where'd that water come from? Well, that water came from Lake Mead. And so you're using the same water. So what you put in it, you're going to get back, or we have the responsibility to make sure it doesn't come back. So Lake Mead is the source, the majority source of our drinking water. It's the majority source of our life here. So we should, from an environmental point of view, recognize that it takes from an environmental conscience, from a business conscience, from a personal conscience, efforts combined. And we use that together, as I said, as an individual, as a business, as a government agency, and everything in between acting together. It's absolutely important. You know, I talked about a story that happened in Washington, and they were trying to limit the pollution into their little creeks. They got the rivers taken care of, but they were finding there's some pollution sources in some of their little creeks, and they couldn't figure out what it was. It was a behavioral issue is what it was. It was the same type of people had done the same thing over and over again and never realized what impact that had. So what they did, because you know the old story, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. If people are set in their ways, it's hard and difficult. So what they did, they went into the schools, into the young children, and they started promoting being conscious and being responsible. And so they teach and taught and trained through education proper behaviors in these children, in these elementary school kids. And the elementary school kids would go home and practice that behavior. And so when they saw their parents acting differently, then they questioned their parents as to what they were doing. It has to start with education. You have to know what you're doing, you have to know why you're doing it, and if it's incorrect or improper or there's a better way, the only way you're going to get it is if you're educated or trained. It doesn't start with the government agency. It doesn't start with collectively the community. It starts individually. So if we can't recognize what our responsibility is, what our duty is on an individual basis, on a one-on-one basis, then we're never going to get anywhere. So it has to actually start from an educational point of view with each individual. Each individual has to commit that they recognize our single stream water source, Lake Mead, is our drinking water, it's our recreational water, it's where all of the drainage water goes to. You know, be conscious about what you're putting into it so that you can be conscious about when it comes back to you, you know, how good it is to do. We do a tremendous job in treating the water. We do a tremendous job at taking care of this community in so many ways. It's time for this community to start doing a tremendous job from an environmental point of view about being conscious about what goes in the gutter. You know, the old commercial of, you know, a little boy puts a popsicle stick sailboat in the gutter and goes down the street. Where does it go? Well, it ends up in their water source, in this case in Lake Mead. We have to recognize what we do here out in the Northwest or wherever it be is going to end up in Lake Mead. And so my neighbor can't do it for me, the community can't do it for me, you know, and the government can't do it for me. I got to do it myself. It's important today to be able to live, because we all want to live and want to have a safe environment, and we want to know what we're doing is going to provide for our welfare. And you certainly want to do that for your children and your children's children. When you leave here, one of your greatest stewardships is what did you do with your time and how accountable are you to your community? And that's what should be on everyone's mind. What did I do to make this place better? Not take away from this place, but wherever it is, what did I do to make this place better? And I don't know anyone that would consciously make a decision to harm their child or their grandchild or their great-grandchild in a conscious effort. You're usually looking out for those people, and you're planning for that today. There's no difference in this. We're saving it and doing it because it's the right thing to do. We need to train and educate because it's the proper thing to do, and we need to carry that on from generations so that we learn from when we're young that that's just a behavioral thing that we do. It's just really, really important.
We all need to be aware of how important our valley's water supply is and the role we all play in making sure we keep that water clean. Why not use environmentally friendly pesticides, chemicals, and fertilizers? Always drain the swimming pool through the drainage port located in your front yard, and be sure to clean up after your pet. The most important message is that we all need to do our part to make sure that we protect one of our most precious resources, water, not only for today, but for tomorrow. For the Flood Channel, I'm Jim Saavedra.
At a time when Southern Nevada needs to be water smart, did you know taking your car to a car wash saves not only gallons of water, but also traps all that dirt and other nasty pollutants? Washing your car in the driveway allows grease, soap, and oil to flow down the street into storm drains and onto Lake Mead, our primary source for drinking water. Do your part, wash smart, a clean car and a cleaner environment. This message brought to you by the Stormwater Quality Management Committee, a program of the Regional Flood Control District.
Hi, I'm Maurice with the Regional Flood Control District, and you're watching the Flood Channel.
Don't press your luck. Steer clear of floodwater.
I'm Agent Smith.
And I'm Agent Jones.
And we're busting people who pollute Clark County.
Hey, who are you guys?
Sir, please step back.
Hey, what are you doing?
Aha! Judged by your reaction, you don't like trash.
No.
Sir, this is yours. We saw you dump it out of your car.
Well, I was.
Sir, did you know trash can clog storm drains, cause flooding, and pollute Lake Mead?
Sir, is Clark County your home?
Yeah.
And you don't like trash in your home?
No.
Then why would you dump trash in Clark County? Don't trash Clark County. It's our home, too.
What's the best way to get rid of used motor oil? Republic Services no longer picks up used motor oil from your curb, but you can take it to one of their recycling centers. Check out their website for more details. Also, most auto parts stores take used motor oil during normal business hours.
Welcome back to the Flood Channel. Buying a home can be one of the most important purchases in your life, but it can be an intimidating process filled with a lot of questions. What's the neighborhood like? What kind of schools and parks are nearby? But have you ever thought to question if the area ever experienced flooding? Well, our next resident reporter, Jimmy, and his fiancee, Brenna, share with us some of their research about flood insurance.
When you think of natural disasters, you may think of hurricanes, tornadoes, or earthquakes. But flooding is America's most common natural disaster. It can happen anywhere, anytime, and real fast here in the desert. So let's get to the bottom of what's myth and fact about flood insurance.
So you can only buy flood insurance if you're in a high-risk flood zone?
No, that's not true. You can buy flood insurance no matter where your home is in Clark County. All you need to do is go see your local insurance agent that handles flood insurance, and they'll take care of it for you.
Does federal disaster assistance cover flood damage to your home?
Maybe. The reality is that only about half of the floods that occur in our country get declared national disaster sites, and then if the federal government does step in and help, the reality is that most of the assistance is going to be in the form of low-interest loans, so you still end up having to pay it back. And it probably isn't going to be enough to handle the kind of repairs that are going to be needed to your home in the kind of flood that's going to be declared a national flood disaster. So if you just suffer a local flood like we might have here in the valley, you're on your own unless you have insurance.
Do property owners in high-risk flood zones need flood insurance?
We've seen here in the valley so many times we have a flood, and a lot of homes that are flooded are not in flood zones. So you need to protect yourself and purchase a flood insurance policy.
Does homeowners insurance cover flooding from rain?
The reality is that once water comes from any source, whether it be rain or anything else, once it touches the ground and moves across the ground and into your home, it's no longer covered by homeowners insurance. You have to have a flood insurance policy to cover those situations. Why is it important to have a flood insurance policy? Because the reality is that if your home does flood, it's going to be disastrous, and most of us are not in a situation to be able to absorb that kind of a loss on our own without help. For most of Las Vegas, we're going to be in a preferred flood zone. So for an average $200,000 home, we typically provide policies for somewhere in the $250 to $450 a year range. They can cover anything from just your building to your personal property as well. The only time the federal government's going to step in and provide any assistance is if the area does get declared a national disaster. And again, only half of flood sites get declared national disasters, so without a flood policy, you're on your own. The national statistics indicate that a little bit better than 25% of homes will suffer some sort of flood loss over a 30-year mortgage period, compared to only 9% suffering a fire loss. Standard homeowners policies do not cover the kinds of floods that we're talking about that come from rains and storms and water main breaks and such as that. They only cover pipes that might burst inside your home.
Well, we hope that clears up some confusion about flood insurance and whether it's right for you and your family. For the Flood Channel, I'm Jimmy.
Hi, hon. How was your day?
I was good. Nothing special. How about you?
Good. Productive.
Good.
Oh, I bought us flood insurance today.
You did what? What do you think we're made of money? I mean, what the heck? Should I just go out and buy a boat and maybe an SUV to pull it around? Oh, okay.
In Clark County, floods can strike at any time, and not just in flood zones. Flooding can cost thousands of dollars in damage, destroying your home and its contents. Do you have flood insurance?
Hi, I'm Pamela with the Regional Flood Control District, and you're watching the Flood Channel.
See that clogged storm drain? Something like that, when it rains, will cause water to back up and flood our streets. Hello, Regional Flood Control District. I'd like to report a clogged storm drain. City and county employees are working hard to keep your storm drains clean. If you spot a clogged storm drain, call and report it.
Help protect the environment by keeping our drains and washes clean. Report clogged storm drains by calling 455-3139.
Why isn't it a good idea to plan concrete flood channels?
Water in flood channels can travel as fast as 30 miles per hour. If trapped by water flowing downstream, there's very little chance a person could survive. Concrete line channels might look like a great place to skateboard, but they're meant for water, not people. Look for the right places to play, like the skate park here at Doc Romeo Park. There's parks like these all around the valley.
Don't press your luck. Steer clear of floodwater.
Welcome back to this Residents Run the Show edition of the Flood Channel. One of our top priorities is educating residents about the importance of protecting Lake Mead, our drinking water source. Carrie Ann goes exploring near the lake to bring us a hidden treasure in the desert.
On a beautiful day like today, what could be better than enjoying a hike through one of the valley's biggest natural parks? Hi, I'm Carrie Ann Mukhopadhyay, and that's my husband BJ, and we're enjoying the day at the Wetlands Park near Lake Las Vegas. These wetlands are part of the Lower Las Vegas Wash. Every community in the valley drains through this area before it reaches Lake Mead. That's why twice a year officials conduct wash walks as part of an ongoing effort to try to keep pollutants from harming the environment.
Well, the primary reason we see it as important is because anything that is dumped or discharged into a wash, into a gutter, or into a storm drain flows untreated to Lake Mead. And that's our primary source of drinking water, so we're very concerned about anything that would get into this water body. The purpose of the inspections that we do is to look for illegal connections, illegal discharges into the wash, excessive sediment, anything that would be considered non-storm water, because all of the channels in the city are really only designed to convey normal, clean residential runoff and stormwater. Nothing else is allowed to be discharged into them. They came about back in 1990. The Nevada Division of Environmental Protection requested all the member agencies in the valley to begin inspecting storm channels, specifically the ones that had dry weather flow in them. And as the years went on, that eventually became a permit requirement in the permit that we have from them to discharge stormwater to the waters of the state.
Well, many people don't realize that the storm drain system starts at the gutter right outside of their house. It'll flow to a storm drain inlet, into a storm drain, into a natural water course, and into Las Vegas Wash and Lake Mead. So things that you do right around your house are very important. The Flood Control District takes care of the common elements like public information, the sampling and the lab work and the annual reporting. It's the entities and their public works departments and their pre-treatment plants and their field personnel that actually get out on the ground and get the work done and do the inspections and try to catch some of the pollutants before they get into the Las Vegas Wash and Lake Mead.
We have found discharges of chemicals, discharges of pesticides, discharges of fertilizer, construction dumping, car parts, oil, all sorts of different types of discharges that cause a lot of different problems in the wash for us. One item of note that we came across was a yards maintenance facility that was discharging pesticides and fertilizer directly into a storm channel. And that's very serious. It affects water quality, habitat, things of that nature. And those are the kind of discharges that are the ones that are of primary importance to us. This is certainly something that requires participation from every resident in the Las Vegas Valley, whether you're a business or you're a private resident.
It's up to all of us in the Las Vegas Valley, not just the public entities and the public employees, but everybody who lives here has a responsibility to protect our water resources. There are so many things that people can do. Picking up after their pets, not overwatering, not over-fertilizing, and managing their household chemicals so that they don't get into the storm drain system. If you see a clogged storm drain inlet, you can call the Regional Flood Control District at 455-3139, and we'll make sure somebody from one of the local municipalities can come out and make sure that's clean so that it doesn't become a problem for flooding and for polluting the storm drain system.
When we find something, the first thing we want to do is get it cleaned up and mitigate any public health hazard that there could be. So that's our primary goal in the first part. Then we go ahead and try to find the perpetrator that caused the discharge. And enforcement actions can range from notices of violations to administrative penalties, and it just goes up from there. It requires participation from everybody in the Las Vegas Valley. Unfortunately, one bad player can cause a lot of problems for a lot of people. So every resident, every business owner, every industry needs to do their part to ensure that non-storm water does not leave their premises and flow into a gutter